it is like the physical part of it. I don't
We
think
are
I
li-
could
we are
physically
live
do.
for 1 second.
I will stop what I was about
I
to say.
sneakily started the show because
Now,
we were
this
talking
is
about
Captain
bagging your own
Buzz.
urine, which is something that, when
This-
bagging
I don't
your own
know how to
urine is
do it.
discussed, it
I'm
has to
not.
be. We have to be live when that moment happens.
This is Catheter Buzz here on HockeyBuzz.com.
What is this? Is this a soccer thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's hooliganism, which is pretty much the
Soccer.
idea of hooliganism of what we have in our mind is dead. There is still obviously some, but it's about the same level of violence you see in sports in the U.S. with fans.
Unless,
So-
of course, you play for Tortorella. But continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think of hooliganism and what a lot of people think of hooliganism, it doesn't really, like, especially in Europe, it doesn't exist the way that people, I shouldn't say in Europe, in England, doesn't exist the way that people, they think of the 1970s and 1980s with hooliganism. I mean, there still is stuff that happens. I just dropped something, no worries. There's still stuff that happens, and it should never be romanticized, which I think sometimes people tend to do that with soccer supporters. You have to be very careful, but, like, for example, the American Outlaws, which is whoever you guys saw me taking pictures with and whatnot.
Yeah.
Hooliganism is the furthest thing from what they're doing. Really, all they're doing is decking themselves out in red, white, and blue and singing. And the chance they have, they're not demeaning. They don't have any type of negative connotation. It's all about support, literal support for the team.
And I wasn't casting aspersions at that particular group. I'm just saying that in the past, especially in Europe, but there was a couple incidents in California during Mexico-USA games.
Oh, yeah.
Where
that still happens. Mexico, USA, that'll still happen. Yeah.
Yeah, where somebody they scan through, they look through or check out people going into the stands. And obviously they're looking for weapons. And when somebody's carrying a box of Ziploc bags, you don't think it's a weapon. But a couple hours later, after a couple dozen beers, it's a weapon. If you get
All right, and here's my one question. My one question is, in England and I think in Spain, do fans still urinate in their seats because they don't want to get up?
When I went to a couple games when I lived in Spain, and I never saw anybody urinating in their seats. Never. There is a halftime, so people do get up for that. It might be a little different. I did not go into the supporters. Supporter sections are also different in Europe, like in England and in Spain. It's a lot more of almost like the entire stadium has that vibe to it. Not everybody's standing, but there is a lot more of that. But people still, in those supporter sections, it might have been a little different where people don't want to leave and you might have had a little bit more bodily fluids. I did not go there, so I can't speak for myself, but I never saw it.
Okay. Just think of this. They're never short of fertilizer for the lawns.
There you go.
It's a lovely discussion.
I will say, though, the one thing that happens a lot is beer gets thrown. A lot. That is the number one thing that you will see. Like, if you're in those sections, don't like your clothes. If you're a girl, don't expect your hair to come out looking pretty at the end of it. I got covered in beer when I was there. And, like, anytime there's a goal scored, people just, like, lose. It just happens, especially because you've been tailgating all day, or if you're in England or whatever, they've been at the pubs before the game.
But it's $10 a beer. You're now throwing a $10 bill. Throw $10 bills. I'll catch them all day long.
When I saw with the Europa, when I watched all the beers, I was like, I wonder how much money in beer was wasted. I would love to know the science behind that one. But it's a lot of fun. And it would be a lot of fun if I saw supporters, because I know in Europe, in a lot of, like, the Swedish league, they have supporter sections. So it would be a lot of fun if there was any type of something small. For me, small, you see some of that coming at the World Cup of Hockey. That would be cool for me. I don't really expect to see it, but it'd be really cool.
I agree with that. I mean, I've seen it at different times. Like I also, saw a game in Bern, Switzerland, and it had a lot of that feel to it, The Swiss league just has a lot of that soccer feel to it, in a positive way, not negative, but, very positive. I saw a game in Marseille, France when I lived there, a soccer game. And that was really cool too. I didn't see anything crazy, I didn't see.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Matthews told me in an interview that he loved playing there in Switzerland because those sections had a lot of energy and he'd never seen anything like it, and he really liked that as a player.
And the closest we have in the NHL, I think, is probably Nashville. To be honest, that does that.
You're missing a lot of them. You got a lot of them.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the Nationals one I've seen the most. Yeah.
You have Tampa, you have New York, you have Ottawa, you have San Jose, and Nashville. So and I would say that they all do. I have never been to Nationals, but I would say all of them I've been to create a lot of noise.
Well, the Nashville one is section, I think 309 it's called, and it's really pretty famous there. And they have their own like sheets they hand out with with their chants on it. And they're good, and a lot of them are taken from college chants, from college hockey chants, which is a long running tradition of,
But I do,
you can't do that and all that kind of stuff, which comes out of college hockey.
I do have to say though that the noise element. I mean, if you remember back in the day, the United Center, or the Chicago Stadium in Chicago, that the sound was so deafening that it was definitely a home ice advantage for the Blackhawks, and the Boston Garden the same, and even the odd in Buffalo. I think had there was a lower roof and there was a sound. Now with the newer stadiums, I know that the First Niagara Center, or now it's KeyBank Center in Buffalo, it's cavernous. So even if you have 19,000 people going nuts, I don't think that there is that intimidation, that sound that really will get into the heads of the other team.
It's true. I never made it to that old Chicago stadium, but when my website started, we sent somebody to cover there, and that was when Chicago used to credential us. Thanks, Chicago. But the guy who was covering it called me on the cell phone, because cell phones were just starting to come in vogue, and it was probably like 2003 or something, and I got to listen to it like firsthand, and I was like blown away. MSG used to have that vibe, but since the remodel, it's muffled a lot of the sound, because now there's that whole big section on the other side that doesn't get to hear all that. There's sort of like the glass sort of, because of the way the walkway is, that glass there sort of muffles what they're doing.
One thing I think would be cool, and you see it in New York with the Islanders, is a lot of the supporters groups in the MLS, they have a lot of drums in their sections, which I always say, it's like the way I see the MLS supporters groups is they're almost like the heartbeat of the stadium, and like the stadium kind of functions all separately, and it's not the heart and soul, but it kind of gets a rhythm in the stadium. And I think having a drum, and I know it does help with the Islanders, because the sections around them can kind of catch along if they're doing something with the drum, and the drum is so loud, so it does kind of help that creating that environment.
Well, I have to say this: if I go to a game in Pittsburgh and I see the guy with the trumpet, I'm going to choke him.
No, I mean, I'm okay with drums. The trumpet guy, I'm even okay with. The air horn guy in Washington, I want to kick in the nuts. And cowbell man at Met games, if he ever stands in front of you for more than a half an inning, you want to strangle him. You do. At
least those Vezawadulos or whatever they're called that you blow in.
Vuvuzelas.
Yeah, at least that never was allowed in the NHL. I mean, that's the one thing I will give him credit for, because that there was a while when soccer was unwatchable because of that. So I'm glad that.
Oh, the World Cup in South Africa. Oh my God, that was so bad.
You literally had to turn off the sound.
But it's different. It's different for every stadium too. Like I imagine a stadium like Toronto or Montreal, they would never need that kind of. Not that other stadiums need it, but it's just fandom in markets like Toronto or Vancouver.
You'd be surprised, Jillian. The one complaint about from a lot of fans is that the fan base in the arena is very corporate, and that it's very quiet. The fans up in the upper levels at the Air Canada Center are, the fans. I would not say the people in the lower levels aren't true fans.
Yeah, I know.
Are more loud and boisterous, and at the beginning of the second period, when the entire platinum section is getting,
drinks.
Getting their drinks and getting their raw fish, their sushi. I mean, Do you think there would be pushback? So if you saw a supporters section coming or supporters group coming in Toronto, do you think there would be pushback from a lot of people? Because Toronto would have one of the ultimate supporters groups, because they would be so diehard and so passionate. Do you think there would be a lot of pushback? I think there would be, but I think that you really can't push back against the fans who are paying $500 a seat. They've earned they earn the right. They're paying the freight.
All right, let's wait. Whoa. Hold on. I get what you're saying, but I have a story to go along with this from this past weekend. All right, so I went to see Bruce Springsteen twice this past week because my wife's a Springsteen's fan. My wife's birthday was Saturday. So we went on Wednesday and I went on Friday night. Keep all the Springsteen comments away. Let's not talk about that for now, because I know how you guys feel about Springsteen.
But I'll leave it alone if you don't go there.
I'm going to talk about the crowd for a second.
Billy Joel's better.
I'm going to talk. Oh my God, don't make people laughing at you. All right. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the crowd for a second because that was where the difference was, and it kind of ties into what you're saying. Okay, so the first night I had tickets on the floor down, the floor of it's in Citizens Bank Park where the Phillies play, big baseball stadium. All right, so on the floor, like probably somewhere in like right center field, I stood, and everybody was standing up, and everybody dancing. It was an awesome show, best Springsteen show I've ever seen. I'm not a Springsteen fan like my wife is. I am a fan, but not like her. But this was the best. This was the best show I'd seen. Fast forward to Friday night, where our tickets were different. They were in what they call like the Hall of Fame Club in Citizen Bank Park, which is sort of the middle seats, up top. In like kind of like a club box sort of vibe to it, where you can walk out into an air conditioned concourse, and then you come out and there's 9 rows of seats, and that's it, right? So and I didn't want to be in there. That was not my goal. At all to be in there, but I'd rather be on the floor. But that was the seat that was available to us. So anyway, we were sitting there. We were in the 8th row, and I know my wife's going to stand the entire time. That's just the way things go, right? So for her, so she's going to be up, so dancing, and that's fine. And I have no problem. This is what I expect for a Springsteen concert. That's what I'm there for. So I said, let's like sit in the top row in rows 3 and 4, because when the people come from rows 3 and 4 in row 9, we can say, hey, would you mind? Do you want to sit a row in front of us, so they're not staring at our backs the whole time, because that section is like a group of like hoity-toity that are sitting, pay more money, and they're sitting down wanting to watch this without wanting to just sit there and embrace 4 hours of Springsteen music without moving. All right, so that's what they're going to do. So, so the people behind us wouldn't switch. They were a group of 6 guys, and the 2 of them wouldn't switch, and but they were all pissed off that we were standing up. And I said, listen, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, I will gladly switch with you, but it's a concert. There are other people. We weren't the only people standing up. There were other people standing up, but sporadically. So guy started getting in my face, really like in my face. He was very intoxicated at the time. So I'm like, you know what? I grabbed my wife. I'm like, let's get out of here. So we go up and talk to security. They whisk us off to another section where they had the entire top row reserved for people who ran into this situation, because they knew this was going to happen, right? This happens all the time. That was how crazy it was. So I ask you, Mike, like, do those people have the right to do what they, what side do you sit on? Do you sit on our side where, it's my wife's birthday, she wants to dance to her favorite musician? Or do you sit on the side of the people I paid a lot of money to sit here, and I don't want somebody dancing around and standing up in front of me at a music concert? I mean, music is a little different than, like, no one's going to stand up for an entire hockey game and be, right. But, the music is, one of those things that you can do with it. But you know what I mean? It was like, it got me thinking about this whole concept that we're talking about, like this whole thing.
Well, I mean, I get your point, and the thing is that, do the rights of somebody who pays $500 a ticket or a seat outweigh somebody who's paying $90 a ticket? No, but nobody who's paying $90 is sitting in the same section as somebody who's paying $500. You're in the same section as everybody who's paying $500. So I think that if you're causing a ruckus, and I've been to games in Buffalo where I'm a Leaf fan, and I'm back in my youth and wearing Leaf garb, and Sabre fans are getting obnoxious, and all I want to do is sit there and watch the game and cheer when the team that I root for scores. So I shouldn't be infringed upon. And, so I think I have as much of a right as they do, but sometimes security will back you up and sometimes they won't. I mean, all I'm saying is optically in Toronto, and it's always commented on Hockey Night in Canada or on other broadcasts. I mean, watching the center ice package and watching the away broadcast, and they always say, well, look at the lack of people in the crowd at the beginning of the second period, because there's literally like 10 people sitting in the platinum section while they're still waiting in line, getting their drinks, and at the first TV timeout or the first whistle, then all of a sudden it's full. So, I mean, that's right. I'm just saying optically, most of the fans, 90% of the fans, they can get their drinks, they can get whatever they want in between. During the 15 minutes, they can go to the bathroom, they can get back to their seats. But for some reason, the people down in the lower section, they want to network, they want to talk to their friends. That's their right. But optically, it doesn't look good.
I fall on the side of Eck. I mean, nobody should ever act like that. I mean, I'm going to be at a Green Day concert in 2 weeks at the Tower Theater where it's all general admission. So I am not going to have a choice but to stand and sort of be in a pit situation. And I will tolerate a lot, but when it gets like that, it's not tolerable.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you completely. Let's start the show. You've been watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com.
Whoops, we forgot that, didn't we?
Yeah,
Most
so,
of it's hockey related.
you'll be getting a lot to talk about urine bombs in the first 5
It
minutes.
was pretty quick. We got into hockey pretty fast, so I'm okay with that. We have Jillian Fisher with us today, Michael Jello, and Russ Cohen. And we're gonna get into some hockey things now. As busy beyond the fan. And I will say one thing: the difference between the Forum and the Bell Center. I wasn't in all the old buildings, but I was in the Forum in Montreal before the Bell Center, and there's a huge difference between those two buildings. The Bell Center is loud, but the Forum was intense. They're both very, very loud, but the Forum was just such a different thing. And of course between the Spectrum and the Wells Fargo Center, there's a huge difference too. And you can see that as well here in Philadelphia.
And the Odd Buffalo had, remember the Odd Buffalo was an 8,000 seat arena before 1970. They expanded it and put the upper deck on there.
Yeah.
It had a low roof with those sort of sound things hanging from the sound tiles hanging from the ceiling, and that kept the sound in. And it was a very loud arena. When they built the first Niagara Center, it used to be called Marine Midland Arena, HSBC Arena. It's gone through so many names you can't. It's too many.
Yeah.
It's cavernous. It's got a really big roof, and that just makes it more of an echo chamber for concerts, and I think louder or less loud for hockey games.
Yeah, I agree 100% there. All right, so let's get into what's going on right now. The World Cup of Hockey is continuing as we speak. Not actually the thing yet, but we're still in the preseason, which is not any preseason that we would think of. Pretty intense. And over the weekend, we saw a serious intensity between Canada and the U.S. That I brought up the question, on my blog, and I want to bring the question to you guys now. Is this too intense?
No.
For what's going on right now? Go ahead, Jill. You say no.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking out loud. I'm sorry. No, it's not. I think we all complained that we were worried that it wasn't going to be intense enough, so we can't go back on our words and be like, now is it too intense? No, this is what we wanted. We wanted hard-fought games where we thought they looked like they cared. They're playing like it mattered to them. And yeah, it's a little chippy, but that's the game sometimes. It gets feisty. It's a rivalry that's going to happen. And when you're in the heat of the moment, when you get that competitive, it's going to happen sometimes.
Yep, it is going to happen. So far, nobody's been hurt yet, really.
It's going to happen, too. That's going to happen.
Not that we
part
know
of the game.
Yeah, I think it is going to happen because,
there's a player hurt. Claude Giroux is already
He's already hurt. He's had a maintenance day today. He's hurt.
Yeah,
right.
He's hurt. There's not even a question. But besides that, you want them to play like this. It's hard to tell hockey players not to play hard unless it's the preseason for the NHL. But then even the younger players play really hard, and then sometimes guys will let up a little bit in the third period. In these games, they're not going to let up. They're not programmed that way. It's just I like what I see. I think it's better than what's been advertised, and we all did have that thought, like, oh, look at all the people that opted out, and as it's turned out, the people that are playing, the players that are playing great.
Well, and you look at and we said this even before the exhibition schedule started. The team that John Tortorella put together was basically a team that was going to use physicality, use the type of game that Tortorella wants to play, and we saw that on display especially on Friday, where they were rough, they were tough. They didn't. I think Canada had the first 10 of the first 11 shots on goal. The play was definitely dominated in terms of puck possession by the Canadians, but the U.S. were being physical. And then we saw Kessler run Shea Weber, and there were a couple other physical instances during that game. And the funny thing is, and I brought this up with Russ earlier, is the fact that not only do you have the Canada-U.S. rivalry, you've got rivalries that go back to the NHL. Brandon Dubinsky and Sidney Crosby hate each other.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Ryan Kessler got eliminated by Shea Weber. Justin Abdelkader is a pain in the butt to play against. So is Brad Marchand. So these rivalries that come up during the NHL season are going to fester and come out in Canada versus U.S. So I think that dynamic is going to continue to grow. And when they play each other, when the game is for real, it could be a real Donnybrook.
Well, it's going to be. I think there's no question. We're not even seeing it. I'm gonna just take the other side of this for a second, and it just as a
shocker. That's
no,
shocking. I didn't see that one coming.
I have to because no one else is gonna take the other side. Listen,
no, we need
splitting myself into two paths here. Okay, the hockey fan in me couldn't love this any more than this. I mean, this is great. I watching it like crazy. Okay, the hockey fan in me, this is awesome. I don't care if anybody gets hurt, go for it. This is they're just playing hard hockey that's entertaining to watch, and it's phenomenal. And that the Team USA built their team to beat Team Canada. That's what they did, and why we're seeing these kind of interesting games. And they did a good job at building their team to beat Team Canada, apparently, despite what everybody said about some of the
for a full.
Joe.
Sure. Go ahead, Eck. Finish.
Sorry, we got lost you for a second. You got
me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Finish.
So you said we heard for a full, and that was it.
Fill in the blank. No. I was saying I don't know if they could do it for like a full tournament. To me the team is too grinding of a team.
Well, I think you saw that in the second game a little bit because it's like first of all, it kind of reminded me of a player that came back from injury, like the first game was there's all this adrenaline and everything was just going strong. And the second game was like, everybody was shot. Like,
but
they're not in good enough shape yet for hockey shape to be able to do this.
But there was significant pushback from Canada in game 2. I think you had Bouwmeester, you had a couple other people.
Yeah.
That responded to the U.S. and basically said, stop it or we're going to do this. So I think there was a little bit of mutual assured destruction when it came to Game 2, and maybe that will cool things down. But I do think that for the U.S. to win, for Tortorella to get the most out of his team, he's going to have the Abdelkaders, the Kesslers, those, the kid from Palmieri from New Jersey. They're going to have to be professional disturbers of the highest order and get underneath the skin of the better players of Team Canada. And if they can do that, then they're being effective at their job, and then the U.S. might have a better chance of winning.
Right.
The one thing we didn't see either was we didn't see like full throttle Patrick Kane.
Yeah.
John Tortorella said we were going to see that, but we didn't see that. So it does sort of make me wonder what the coach is telling the player. And you have to have him be full throttle. They just don't have enough offense to beat a lot of teams if you're going to sort of play this way. Because, again, even Team North America has more offense in my mind than Team USA.
Well, everything went right in Game 1. They got goals out of Parise. They got goals out of Kane. They got a goal out of McDonough. Quick played very well. And the Canadian players didn't seem sharp. In Game 2, that wasn't the case. So,
would you almost like say like a wake up call? That's kind of how it was almost like, hey, all right, shake it out, or this is for real. We're playing for real.
Right. I don't think Canada was not motivated in Game 1.
I don't think they expected that kind of game.
Yeah, they were surprised. They were surprised.
Right.
And the ironic thing is, we're going to see Corey Perry, like who is in there now. They need him. The weird thing is, like, Canada built their team basically kind of like the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? The fast, up-paced, not physical team at all. Canada built a team like that, and there's players on there. When you're seeing who the physical guys are, like the Tavares and Stamkos, who the physical superstars are, they're doing everything they can to be physical. Giroux as well. Those guys are trying, but what's happening, is that we see this. There's this cyclical cycle in hockey that's been happening over, and I've always been fascinated by it, of the game getting really fast and really non-physical, and how when it gets to a certain point where that is absolutely the case, a very physical team can come in and totally screw everybody up. And this is the Broad Street Bullies story, right? This is what the Broad Street Bullies were. And that took a long time. It took a couple years for the NHL to catch up, and that's why the Flyers won 2 Stanley Cups. Now you're seeing like a little microcosm of that in this series, because you're seeing Canada with all this talent, all these fast players. And then you're seeing this really physical team being thrown in there, and Canada never thought about matching the U.S. They just thought about putting their team together. U.S. thought about matching.
I agree to that, though. I think you shouldn't worry how somebody else is going to play the game. Play the game how you play it, and you should. Canada has enough star power that they can win. They can find a way to combat it. That's the thing for me, is that it feels like if anybody can maneuver or make the right moves to combat something, it's going to be a team that's as talented as Team Canada. So that's the thing. In a full tournament, the U.S., that you're going to wear down so quickly playing that type of physical game, and it's like against Team Canada, that speed will catch up to you. It will.
Well, think of it this way. Team USA wants John Tavares to be taking runs at people because John Tavares is such a good player that they don't want him concentrating on goal scoring or setting up plays. They want him to be physical because that takes them out of his element. So that is a win for Team USA. If they are getting underneath his skin so much that he's taking runs at people, then that they've won. Now the question is, does Team USA have enough firepower in a rough and tumble game like they're trying to play to win those games? In game 1, in an exhibition game, they did. In game 2, they didn't. And that's where the concern is, not having a guy like Kessel there, because really they have Kane, they have 1 or 2 other scorers, and then it's guys who have a lot of talent, but they're not big offensive players, and you need more than just 1 or 2 guys to be able to combat and play that type of game.
Unless you have Jonathan Quick, right? And that's the issue was, like, Jonathan Quick in the first game showed that you can get away with it because Quick frustrate and Quick is so. I mean, we look at these 3 goalies, and Schneider's probably the best of the 3 goalies. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, just look at them as 3 goalies. But Jonathan Quick is the best international goalie of these 3 goalies. Like, he's the best for this particular game, in my opinion, because he makes saves that other people won't make. He makes saves look harder sometimes, but he also makes saves that no one else is going to make. So he also he really confuses teams, and he confuses shooters by what he does. He is so, and I love that about him, because there are so many shooters that are used to playing against the Carey Prices and Corey Schneiders, who are very, very sound, have great reflexes, but are so sound and always in the right spot that you're not going to score from here. So why even take a shot from there? I mean, the way to beat Jonathan Quick is to shoot from everywhere. That's always been proven. That's how you used to beat Dominic Hasek too. Shoot from everywhere. It doesn't matter.
Tim Thomas. It's the unorthodox goalie.
Right, but these players, especially these superstar players, are finally tuned not to shoot from everywhere. They are not. That's not their game, right? That's the game of 3rd and 4th liners in the NHL in general. But that's not the game of these guys who make great plays and score great goals. So what Canada ran into against Jonathan Quick was that they were trying to make the normal plays and they couldn't. And we saw they had immediate success against Bishop and they had success against Schneider, and that's why, I mean, it's very hard for Schneider and Bishop to compete against Jonathan Quick in this tournament, as in my mind.
Because he's had all the opportunities, so he does have all the experience. There's no question.
Right. And he's also inside everybody's head. I mean, he's inside of.
To some degree, I don't think he's going to be inside everybody's head if his team is sagging in the middle of the second period like the last game. That's the thing. He'll hold them in it, but he won't be able to hold them in it forever. Canada was just getting too many 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, and that will kill any goalie over time.
No, I do agree with that. I mean, and because it's like an all-star game. At some point, goalies can't stop it, right? No goalie is going to shut out a team in an all-star game. It's just not. When it happens, they should be the MVP of the all-star game. That's the way. It's the reality of it, because it's just not going to happen, right? So,
Team USA has always been dependent on great goaltending internationally to ever win anything.
Oh yeah,
you're going to have Quick stand on his head for them to even get to the medal round.
But here's my other question about this. Okay, now we've seen North America play 2 games against Team Europe, and it's funny because they set this up nicely in that the Czechs and the Russians have their rivalry, the Swiss and the Finns have their rivalry, the US and Canada have their rivalry, and of course the 2 teams that don't have a rivalry they put against each other. Not necessarily fair for Team Europe in some ways. Team Europe could have used a game against the Czechs, would have been nice, right?
By the way, that guy wearing number 34, is that Patrick Laine on Team North America? That number 34, because he's really, really impressive, and I think he's.
No, he's been incredibly impressive. He has been. Time will tell on whether he's better than Patrick Laine or not. That's going to be a debate you and I are going to have for years to come. So I'm looking forward to it. But we're going to see how this all plays out. He's been very impressive, but here's the thing. So the team North America couldn't have drawn up better than have 2 games against Team Europe. I mean, that's the perfect team for them to play against. They're the oldest team in the tournament. So you have the youngest and the oldest teams playing each other. So will Team USA run at Team North America? Because that's a whole different ball of wax than running at Team Canada. Because running a team, how hockey players work mentally. It's one thing for them to run at Canada, who they see as their peers. It's another thing to run at kids.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to, because
I don't think so either.
Ekblad's bigger and stronger. Seth Jones is bigger and stronger. Like, it's one thing for you as the older guy, veteran, to play against, let's say you're playing one-on-one against your son, right? You muscle him around a little, whatever, and then all of a sudden he turns 17 and 18, and then you don't want to do that anymore because he's now stronger than you.
Right.
A lot of the guys on Team North America are going to be stronger than the guys that are allegedly pushing them around.
Right, and the ones who aren't, they're not going to feel right running Gaudreau and McDavid necessarily. Like the way their heads are. Just the way.
Well, because what if something happens where they it's just he's at a weird angle, he gets this severe concussion, and now this young possible superstar, and you did this in the World Cup of Hockey. I mean, you can't tell me that doesn't weigh in the back of your mind just a little bit.
First of all, I don't think that's going to factor in because these guys, in a sense, they wear blinders when they're not picking out particular players. They're just like.
I agree with
Either
that.
way, so you mean to tell me they don't know when McDavid would have the puck? You think he's another player?
I'm with Jill in this. I don't totally agree with you. Just knowing these guys, I know they're going to think twice before they run at McDavid or before they run at Matthews.
I don't think
if it's a championship game. If it's a championship game, they're not going to care.
Exactly. I mean, first of all, Team North America is in the division with Sweden, Finland, and Russia. They're not going to play the U.S. until the medal round. So if they get to that far, I really think that it's going to be no holds barred. It's whoever wants to win. So I really don't think that they're going to say, okay, well, we can't hit these guys because they're younger and they're stronger and they're faster. No, they're going to try to win. So they're going to resort to what their philosophy is for winning. And with Team USA, like we've said, I think their philosophy is we're going to beat them physically, we're going to play good defense, we're going to rely on our goaltending, and we hope we get as many goals or more.
I don't think though that I don't think what we're saying is that they're not going to run at them and they're going to stop hitting them. Maybe they change their style of play a little bit. Maybe they take a different approach because it's a totally different beast with them. It's this young team. Everyone's talking about how young. It's all you hear about this team. So no, I don't think they're going to stop checking. But do they take a different approach to the game? Maybe.
Well, the one thing with Team USA, which is a criticism and the way we've talked about, is the fact that I think with their roster and the way it's constructed, they're a one-note Charlie. They got to play that way. If they don't play that way, they're not going to win. They have.
Oh, they do have to play that way, but the problem is that works against teams that are better than you, better than it does against teams that aren't better than you. So when they run up against the European team and the Czech team, Team USA is not going to be able to play that way as easily because. They're going to end up with a situation where those teams are going to be countering them. Like they're playing as a counter team against North America or Canada, they can do that.
Right.
But when they start to Team Europe has Kopitar on it, beyond Patrick Kane, Kopitar was the best player forward on either team, and that so they suddenly have something matches them but doesn't surpass them. So I think that changes the way it plays too, and that's what's interesting about the dynamic of this whole thing. I do believe that there's a huge difference when you get away from the rivalries, like Team Sweden playing Team North America, how that'll play out. Things like that. There's a difference. The rivalries have their own thing to them.
They have their own life.
They do. They have their own life.
Here's something that hasn't come up yet that I haven't seen in any of the rules. So what happens if somebody gets a suspension? Are they now suspended for part of the NHL season?
Yes,
or
they
for
are.
The next order?
Really?
Yes, these suspensions go into what I was told is these suspensions go into the NHL season.
They go into the NHL, not the IIHF.
Right.
Okay.
So
They might also go into the IIHF. That I was told different things about that, but it might be a double thing. But they definitely.
Damn, that sucks. That's brutal.
It definitely is there's a 3-panel board to determine suspensions. Somebody and 2 of them are from the NHL and one's from the IIHF. So there's three people. The NHLPA has no say on that board.
Interesting.
Which is, it kind of is. I mean, I guess you could say that they can't really judge themselves, right? Because but at the same time, you could see a suspension, and I think you will. I think you will see a suspension before all is said and done.
One. I'm not doubting that.
This whole tournament is interesting. At every time something I learn about this tournament, I'm like, this is a very interesting setup on this tournament.
Kessler came perilously close because that was behind.
Yeah, he did. And if it wasn't honestly, the fact he hit Weber probably saved him. Like if he hit a different kind of defenseman that way, Weber's so big that he gets right back.
So here's the bigger thing then. So guys aren't being paid. Players aren't really being paid for this. But if they get suspended in the regular season, they're losing real dollars, right? So kind of wonder if that's going to be a real deterrent or not.
Right.
So far, it hasn't been, right? I mean, even in the exhibition games, and they know that's the case. So,
is there any prize money up for this for the winning teams?
Yeah, it's called
nationalistic pride.
Yeah.
I knew you were going with something.
There's a general money that's going to the NHLPA, right? There's a lot of money that the NHLPA gets out of this.
Escrow. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in for a. I think I can't help but think Canada and the U.S. are going to calm down a little bit from the first game, but maybe will they escalate? I mean, that's the question. Will they escalate? And you know, if this continues to escalate and does this escalate, will we ever see this tournament again? Because I don't think we will. Like, I think that this is just knowing enough owners that I know that we are seeing the one and only World Cup of hockey if this continues.
When you say if it continues, do you mean like
if it gets more physical,
severely hurt?
Players get hurt, players get suspended. Owners are going to be like, no, never again, you know, and that would be that.
Because what if a player gets an injury that impacts them for the first half of the season? That's possible. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
And if you're a player, and these are all great players, these are key pieces to a team for a lot of these teams, and that would be rough. And I see it happening. It's part of the game. It's part of these tournaments. It happens in every type of tournament like this. A player gets really hurt. It has yet to not happen in any tournament that I can think of like this.
Well, if Claude Giroux is hurt,
which he is, we think.
He is.
But if he's seriously hurt, that is going to impact to the extreme the Philadelphia Flyers, because him and Voracek are the two key players on that team. So already, I mean, if this is a serious injury and he's just going to play through it, I mean, that's.
But you know how it's going to go. This is how it goes with Giroux. He goes on the bench, and he makes that face, and we all know he's hurt. He sits at the end of the bench, then he eventually works his way into the lines. The coach asks how he is. He says okay. It's not like Mike Babcock's going to take him aside and says, you can't get hurt for the Flyers or I'm going to get yelled at. So he's just going to play. And this is how these players are going to – this is
how they all are. I think it's how they all are. They want to play. They want to play. They don't want to let their team down. They want to play.
Yeah. Take this. Team Canada salary cap is $158 million, okay? All right, so that puts them to $80 million over the NHL salary cap. So I mean, at least, you know,
penalty for that.
That's what we're dealing with here, right? So we're looking at,
so it's all the big players. I mean,
and they're all playing for free, all of them. So that's the crazy thing about this, right? And they're all insured. They're all insured, so there's no real. They are
insured, yes.
I mean, and like you said about what you said about Claude Giroux couldn't be more true, Russ, because it's like, you know, Claude Giroux played hurt a lot of last year, and he'll.
Oh yeah.
See, we might not ever know whether he was really hurt. We just will know that Claude will have a half decent year and then get some kind of surgery in May.
Right. Well, at least it's happening early in the season. That's the one argument I feel like people making.
That's why the Flyers, if he is indeed hurt, need to shut him down right away and not let him play, because he will play through it.
Yeah, we'll never know how good a player Claude Giroux is because he's always playing hurt.
I know. The times he hasn't been hurt, he's been phenomenal, and you do see the difference in his game.
There is a difference.
Claude Giroux last year in the playoffs, for example, was very, very hurt and didn't have anything. But, you know, there have been times when he's torn it up, you know, like right around the Olympics last time. He was just tearing it up.
Yeah.
And because he was healthy. But he's been rarely healthy. And I would say, you know, most of the time he's got something going on. And, you know, having, you know, rehab from hip surgery all year and then taking that hit the back, you just knew that. I'm like, oh, my gosh, you know, that has to be. I'm sure when he got out of the rehab, someone said, don't let Pavelski knee you in the back at 60 miles an hour. It's not the best thing for your back, for your hip after that. I mean, you know, it's like,
There's probably on top on the list. Probably very, very high.
Yeah, it's not what your doctor tells you when you leave the rehab thing.
But at least the injuries are high, because the one argument I see with the difference between the Olympics and the World Cup, the Olympics happen pretty late in the season. You come in February, and you get a bad injury then, especially if your team's pushing for the playoffs and you're a key player. It doesn't look so good. So that's the one thing that this tournament does happen, even though it's happening right before the season. If a player gets hurt, they have time to at least heal to make an impact on their team season.
Well, I mean, and I don't know about last year, but I know that over the last couple years, a team that is not in a playoff spot, there's only been like one team that was not in a playoff spot by American Thanksgiving that ended up making it to the playoffs. So the beginning of the season is just as important as the end of the season.
No, but I mean, she makes a good point, because like the Tavares injury, once the Olympics end, there's not much regular season left, and so you really, that impacts you more than if he misses, the first month.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not discrediting the beginning of the season because
Right.
when it comes down to you need one game more to win, and you lost that game in the beginning of the season, yeah, it makes a difference. But you know a little better in February whether your team is making a push for the playoffs or not. And and when you're trying to you're racing against 4 other teams to get that last wild card spot, it makes a difference. So in February, if you get hurt, it makes a much larger difference than an injury in the first week of the season.
No, for sure. I like the story about Austin Matthews though, about him grabbing his hockey bag and walking away. I thought that was good. If you guys heard that or not, in the locker,
I haven't heard it.
Yeah, in the locker room, I was told he grabbed his hockey bag after he put his equipment on after the first game with Canada and threw it over his shoulder and walked out in the hallway. And the equipment manager's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm going. I'm leaving." And he's like, "No, you don't. You leave your bag here and you go. Like we have people who do that."
Right. That's a work ethic. That's what a hockey player.
He's like, "Oh, okay, all right." He said, He's like, "Really? Where do they put?" He's like, "Where do they put them? I'll put it there." He's like, "No, you just leave it next to your locker, and they'll take it in. They'll take it out."
I like how he even asked after. Like he asked, like, "Well, I'll go take it there for them."
Yeah.
But I will tell you, since I'm always covering the opponent's locker room first at Flyers games, that there's usually 1 or 2 guys on every team that still does it themselves.
Yeah.
Really?
And it does always amaze me because this is sort of drummed into them.
Yeah, it's just like and I think that's cool. I mean, that's definitely what I would do if I was in that situation too. It's just like you grab your bag. It's like
you weren't raised in a barn. Take your stuff with you.
Right, exactly. You weren't raised in a barn. Raised by ocelots.
Close the door when you leave. Push your chair in. Like when you get up from the table, and take your bag with you.
Simple things. Yeah. You weren't raised by a group of ocelots. You're here. All right, so yeah, but but Austin Matthews has shown and of course he's shown incredible poise. He's made some beautiful plays, for sure.
Is Toronto going crazy, Mike?
Oh, fans are they're enthused. I mean, not only because of Matthew. I mean, he had a decent first game, but yesterday, the first goal, either he was in the right place and the puck was deflected off of his stick and it went to Ekblad, or he dropped it for Ekblad and they scored the goal. But on a play that he didn't score on, he took the puck in the third period from his own blue line, cut through the neutral zone into the offensive zone, across and around Roman Josi, and had a backhand play that took the announcer's breath away, and I think most Leaf fans were watching too. I mean, just scary talent. And the moves he's making are at high speed, Russ. That's the thing that
that's what I was trying to tell people. It's like, it doesn't really matter who's defending him. Now, you saw Seidenberg had to literally just dive and get a puck away from him. And in today's NHL rules, it's not that far-fetched that you're going to have to make plays like that against him if you really want to stop him from getting into the crease and getting through that dirty area, because 3 guys tried to do it in that game, and they couldn't. And whether he did that pass on purpose or it did just get deflected, and I think it got deflected, it went right to Ekblad, and that's what he does. He sort of creates extra space on the ice for his teammates. He's going to be an impact player.
But yeah, I mean, the fact they got deflected is, they always, good hockey players will tell you, it doesn't matter. Like it's the fact that you got your stick on it and you made something happen with the puck, and the puck will find its way where it finds its way. But if you don't get your stick on it, that puck never gets deflected and never gets anywhere. So.
Well, in the first game, they had him playing on a line with McKinnon and Nugent Hopkins, and I call it the top pick line because they were all first overall picks, and he played pretty well. He played so well though that McClellan moved him up. He was playing some of the game with Brandon Saad, and on one of the power plays was playing with McDavid and Eichel. So it was, and McClellan said after the game that he has no fear of putting Matthews in any situation. So already after in 2 exhibition games, they have enough trust in the kid he's only turning 19 next Saturday. That that he's unfazed by the situation, and he's carrying his water. So I think right now Leaf fans have a reason to be enthused.
Young, 19.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news. Okay.
Breaking news that will make Ek and Jillian gasp. Both of you guys are going to gasp.
I'm ready.
All right. This is from the Hockey News. They simulated the season for NHL 17.
Oh, I saw that, and I was like, "That's like the worst trolling. That's so mean."
It is.
What happened?
Such a mean trolling there.
I couldn't see it. What is it?
Flyers are Stanley Cup champions.
Claude Giroux was kissing the Stanley Cup.
I was so mad. I'm like, okay, even if let's pretend for I said to
Did he have a replacement hip yet?
True. Let's just pretend. Like, give me 5 minutes of glory, and then I'm gonna get mad. They trolled the hell out of us.
I want to note right now that I don't think they've ever been close to correct on any of their simulated.
No, they have been. A couple of years ago, they got it exactly right with LA. They got it right with Chicago.
No, last year they had the Ducks winning. I know that didn't happen.
Last year they got it wrong. I think this year they probably got it wrong.
I think they got it. I think most of all the comments I saw from Flyers fans were like, well, that's wrong. That's mean. I think we're well aware of the expectations for the season. And it'd be nice this year to see them push for the playoffs. It'd be nice. But I think that our expectations are not that high. And that's fine. That's fine.
Did the Hockey News choose the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I just think, but here's the thing. You know the simulation was real because you don't get that moment where the guy's kissing the cup unless you have completed the game. You can't cheat that.
Right. No, you know it's real, but you can run several simulations until you find the market.
As many times as
you find the market that you want to sell the most Hockey Newses to, and then you're good.
Well, they get it. It was like the Flyers and the oh my gosh, the Kings in a 7-game series is what they had the cup. That's how they had it, and I was like,
it's never like the Hurricanes versus the Predators in a final where you have like.
This is the Hockey News Stanley Cup playoff lottery simulator, basically.
Yeah. Every day it's somebody new, right?
Flyers, there you go.
No, I mean it does come out. The game comes out on Wednesday, I think, and I think it's on Wednesday, and it has the World Cup of Hockey in it. So I was thinking, I'm sure that I was just waiting for the simulations, the World Cup of Hockey simulations, which haven't happened. I'm surprised
that's true. I'm surprised they haven't done that, but you knew that this one would have an impact. I knew Jillian would have a reaction, and they knew
that was just the meanest trolling ever. God, it was so.
Yeah.
And I let myself have 5 minutes of pretending that it was going to be true. Just 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, back to reality now.
Again, finishing up with Austin Matthews, though, I think that the obvious thing is that, we talked about right off the bat, how he wasn't going to be a fourth-line player on this team. He's not going to be a fourth-line player on this team. And like they were talking about when he was originally on the fourth line. And also, though, I will say this. Somebody I thought played very well in Game 1. This is for my Edmonton fans out there who were criticizing us. I thought Ryan Nugent-Hopkins looked really good in Game 1.
He did. But he didn't take face-offs.
Right, he wasn't taking faceoffs, I know, but I thought that was some of the best hockey I've seen him play. I felt.
He did play great.
But when you're playing 3 guys who've been picked first overall, if you're not a complete schlub, you should.
No, but he particularly looked good.
He really looked sharp, Mike.
He made good plays. He made really good plays, and he looked mature. I mean, he is mature. He's one of the older players on the team, but he looked like he had definite maturity and. And I was impressed by him. I think that.
Yeah, I like him as a player. I just don't like him as a face-off guy. That's the only difference.
Right. I think that and I do also think that McDavid, Eichel, and Gaudreau might be and I wrote this today. Are they the best line in the tournament? I mean, they might be.
Very well could be. They very well.
I mean, is there a better line than McDavid, Eichel, and Gaudreau?
I will tell you this.
And Gaudreau.
You're gonna laugh at this, but the line that kept getting Team Europe to come back. If that line was on a different team. With Zuccarello, Gaborik, and I forget who the other person on that line was, because of their familiarity and Zuccarello's creativeness, they're dangerous. That's a dangerous line because they started to click again like the old days. But again, they're on Team Europe, so it's not going to happen.
Zuccarello's been good though, and
he has.
And he does stand out. He stands out as there's he and obviously Kopitar's big time stand out on that team.
For some reason, I want to say it was Nielsen was the center.
Yeah, Franz Nielsen. It was. That's a heck of a line. I got to tell you, but again, it's on Team Europe. That's the problem.
Yeah, I was playing around over the weekend, thinking that since Team North America could win this whole thing, on how to combine the U.S. and Canadian national anthems. I think I've almost figured it out. And there's a way of actually musically putting them together that's pretty cool. So I'll have that later on in the week. But
Lord, that'll be interesting.
We're gonna need it. We're gonna need to have an anthem that's combines, and and perhaps I'll do it with under like a salsa beat, so it can be so Mexico can be included.
So it really does. I was gonna say you include everybody.
To include Mexico, put a salsa beat underneath it, and you'll have it all together.
This is going to be interesting.
Yes,
I like it.
Jose, can you see true patriot love? Okay, so I've been working on it. It's really true. Things I do. Okay, so let's see what else I had before we get out of here. Oh shoot, I had it right here. And you guys have anything else while I'm looking for this thing?
For anybody going to the World Cup of Hockey, I will be there Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So, and I'll be seeing some games, and I plan to play bubble hockey in the fan village. So if anybody wants to challenge me, it's on. I'm there.
Wow.
I'm ready.
I didn't know that. You didn't come. You didn't play me in bubble hockey when you were here. You should have played me.
I'm sorry. Don't even get me started on the construction that was there at my house. Oh my God, I will go on a whole separate rant there. So we're gonna keep that one done.
Construction. I know about that.
I'm gonna just smile and pretend like it didn't actually happen.
Joe, let's talk about that. You know, I should meet you. We should have a bubble hockey tournament in the village.
All right, well, let's talk about that, and then we'll figure out. And we'll
village.
It's. I think. I just tweeted out to somebody. I'll let you guys know where it is. It's close to the stadium, and they're playing the games there too. So if you want to see the games, be a part of the environment, they will have the games being played on a screen.
It's got to be in Maple Leaf Square if it's outside, because it's I would assume that it's going to be there because it's an open area. So it probably, but I'm not sure. I don't know. So
we'll organize a game. We'll tell people at HockeyBuzz to come play. I'm ready to go. I have my GoPro ready. I'm ready to kick some butt.
Nice. I'm awesome at that game because I have one here. It'll be fun. Yeah, for sure. Last thing I wanted to say is, well, who thinks that Johnny Gaudreau is playing for a contract? I mean, he really does like.
I think he's just always plays like that.
He always plays this, but my gosh, he's looking like. How's Calgary not going to be able to give him an enormous contract after this?
Well, they will give him an enormous one. I just can't give him the top of the pay scale one. I just can't do it.
Well, and apparently it came out on the weekend or before the weekend. We talked about it on Friday. That Eric Francis from Sportsnet reported that he was asking for $8 million a year, and they paid Monahan 6.3, I believe, and they offered him 6.3. So they wanted to pay him the same money as Monahan, and he, supposedly they're $1.5 million a year apart, and that's that's significant, and that's not something that can be smoothed over. So it's going to be. I mean, you could have the potential here of a holdout with Gaudreau if they don't.
There won't be a holdout, but they might. They might go bridge deal because Calgary is another one of those teams that doesn't have unlimited resources, and they have to be careful. Like they're doing this smart, and they're going to have to play a little hardball. They love Gaudreau. Look, we all love Gaudreau, but if you're going to sign him to let's say a 7 or an 8 year deal, he is the kind of player that if he ever does slow down because of injuries or anything like that, then he's going to look a lot like a Brian Giunta at the end of his contract, that kind of thing. So
he's 24 years old, right? I mean, 23 or 24.
Age doesn't matter. We know that. It's mileage.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. I think he's going to get paid. He's going to be at least I think he's probably going to end up around 7.5 somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think he's going to get seven and change, and he's worth that.
And he should get more than Monahan.
It's hard to give him more than a center, Eck. I mean, that's the problem.
I think he might get more, but he won't get the long. He may get 7.5, but he might get 5 years.
Right.
Could Gaudreau be better than Patrick Kane at some point?
No.
All right.
No.
I'm not convinced.
I think he's an incredible talent. I do not think he's going to be better than Patrick Kane.
We'll see. Yeah, it's Scotiabank Street. That's what it is. It's I know we'll put up the information about that later. I know there's a bunch of things there going on. The village is where the village is in there in Toronto. I just got to send me. I was looking for it on my.
And I think there's alumni that are going to be there too. It seems like it'll be a lot of fun for people who want to be a part of the World Cup of Hockey, but maybe can't afford the tickets, or just don't. They want to be a part of that experience because the tickets are a little pricey for those games. So if you can't do that, please come.
You know what a bargain is, especially for Americans. For $23 a ticket, you could get tickets for the Village and watch Green Day play. They probably won't play a full show, but it's $23 Canadian. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I just spent $75 a ticket just for a regular show. So I mean that's a bargain.
Oh yeah. And these villages are always. I mean, I've seen them before. And the NHL does a great job with them. They are really good.
Yeah.
They're fun, and the one in Nashville is particularly awesome. The one that we just had during the All-Star game.
They always do a good job with these. They're fun.
I know that you wrote over the weekend, Ack, that you think that there's a possibility that there's going to be some trade talk.
Yes, I do. I think that, and it really, I'm going to get more into that tomorrow with you guys on the show, but there's definitely a lot of people saying that just because the World Cup is going on, there's still teams that are realizing that how close they are to the regular season. There's teams with a lot of unfinished stuff going on, and a lot of people will be in Toronto. A lot of
Yeah.
GMs will be in Toronto. A lot of scouts will be in Toronto during this World Cup. There's going to be a lot of discussions going on. It's going to be fascinating to follow.
You know, and I do have a tip. I heard that Jillian's glasses fog when she plays bubble hockey, so you might get an edge there if you don't wear glasses.
How dare you tell everybody my secret, Russ? How dare you?
That's all we have time for, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.